When Pokemon was the all-time craze, it spawned other attempts to cash in on that market like Digimon and Tamagotchi. But how about a weird tactical RPG for the PS1? Let's dive into this odd one with Monster Seed. Monster Seed is a tactical RPG developed by NK System and published by Sunsoft for the PlayStation on November 5th, 1998 in Japan, and then a few months later for an international release in 1999. This is a game that really wanted to hop on the Pokemon bandwagon back when Pokemon took the world by storm, but with some elements to differentiate it from the rest, like being a magical monster summoner known as a ruler instead of a trainer. Another game from my childhood, so let's dive into this adventure and see what it has to offer. In Monster Seed, you play the role of Daniel, who is a ruler who seeks aid from a nearby town after he is almost killed by a couple of thieves. You'll hatch monsters and do battle in the arena to hone your skills and take on some jobs for the town until you're ready to take on the gang who mugged you, as you breed an army of cool monsters to help you along the way. Monster Seed will run you around 36 hours to beat, which seems like your typical RPG time well spent going on an adventure. The game feels kinda slow with animation, so maybe this number doesn't indicate well the amount of time you'll be experiencing the story and content given how long some fights can go for. But it'll still be a decent time in my opinion, and with that said, we'll move on to the graphics to see how they fare. The graphics for Monster Seed are actually pretty bad in my opinion. For its time, I'm sure it was pretty good with how the CGI cutscenes look, but everything else looks kind of unappealing with a big strike going towards how the character models look in this game. It seems obvious all the real work went into monsters, as their designs actually look pretty neat and you have a variety of creative monsters to have in your party. The game's locations also sport the pre-rendered backgrounds I like so much, but it's clear this was in the early stages before big games like Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 perfected the look for mainstream audiences. Monster Seed may be rough around the polygons, but it still has a charm to the monster designs that will hopefully keep you invested in the game, and now we'll see if the audio can help as well. The audio for Monster Seed is actually pretty generic when you really listen to it. That's not necessarily a bad thing, mind you, just some of the tracks really seem almost like something you'd say typical when it comes to certain games. Maybe it's just me, but there are a few out there I really dug, like the music for the hatching process. The general store. And also one of the battle themes that really sounds like boss music. Now there's no voice acting in this game, but I'll still take this opportunity to air out a minor grievance with how poor the dialogue in this game is. It really reads awkwardly to me and almost feels like it was a terrible translation job. Luckily it's not littered throughout the entire game, but it does feel sprinkled on there from time to time. With that said, even though the music is middle of the road for me, it does have some tracks that you can really get into if you give it a chance. Now let's jump into the main event and see how we handle these monsters. For a game like Monster Seed trying to capitalize on the Pokemon craze back in those days, you'd expect similar gameplay from this game, but this is where Monster Seed tries to carve its own path by making the game a tactical RPG. The weird thing about this, that really sets it apart from Pokemon, is how the monsters in this game sort of act on their own, only basing their actions on what your overall order is for them. You can have them focus on attacking, defending, assisting, to even committing suicide? I don't condone that last bit, to be honest. I didn't try it in the game myself and never found a reason to do so, and I don't see a strategy where it would make sense, at least in my time playing it. Moving on though, I do like how this combat system works in that it gives you a bit of realism that your monsters, while still following your main orders, aren't exactly slaves to you, following your every single command down to the letter. I also like how they can get tired from combat and return to you so you can recover them back into your party. This is a nice curveball that could really change the battle's tide and force you to rethink strategies on the fly. Before I forget, the strategy portion in this game not only comes from the commands you issue to your monster, but also the fact that you can only ever have a maximum of 3 on the field before your others simply vanish if they haven't been fully summoned yet. So you really have to think about which monsters you want on the field at the time and when to switch them out for others and such. You also have to be very careful too, as monsters that lose HP in battle collapse like they would in any RPG, but with a big issue. The issue being that if they stay collapsed long enough, they'll simply die and vanish into nothing, leaving you with a permanently dead companion that leaves your party forever. So with that said, be sure to stock up on healing items and save your Fenny Wings for the important monsters you want to keep. I will mention though, that while monsters can die in this game, you also get an abundance of materials when you win fights such as monster seeds and solutions that you can take on the town shops and combine them to hatch a bunch of monsters, so you'll always have a bunch of monsters to choose from. It's a cool and fun mechanic that I enjoyed the most in this game and would really love to see all the monsters that can be hatched from all these eggs. All in all, Monster Seed's gameplay is by far the best part of the game. It may not be much, and it may feel slow at times, but it still has a charm to it that really grabbed me, and I hope some of you will find an appreciation for it as well. Monster Seed may be a somewhat mediocre game, but it really has a charm to it that I admire. I think it would be really cool to see this game remade in today's age of gaming with all the technology we have now that could vastly improve every single aspect of this game to really make it a good contender to compete with the likes of Pokemon and Digimon. It would really be cool if an indie developer saw this game and took some notes to make their own monster breeding game and just wowed us with its hidden potential. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of UnderRadar. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more UnderRadar, and share this video around if you think we need more UnderRadar in the world. Thank you guys for another fantastic episode of UnderRadar, and I'll see you on the next one.